Okay. Um, well, we'll go ahead and get started. My name's Stephen Bishop. I'm the Western Director for NC FarmLink. And we've also got Hannah Bundy and Nola Renels here from NC FarmLink. So they'll be monitoring the chat. If y'all have any questions, you can put your questions in the chat and we'll try our best to answer them. But for those of you who don't know, NC FarmLink is a program of NC State Extension. So we're a statewide program, and we try to connect landowners who don't have somebody in their family who wants to farm or continue to farm with beginning farmers who are seeking land. So the ultimate goal of our program is to keep farms and farmland in production. But we do tend to work with two very different demographics. We work with a lot of younger farmers who are just starting out. And then we work with a lot of older farmers on succession issues. And one of the issues we see is that older farmers will get in a bind where basically their farm is their biggest asset. And so they're faced with a tough choice. Do they sell the farm to pay for living expenses or long-term healthcare expenses? Do they do like a reverse mortgage where the bank will own the farm once they pass away? And so once you get to that point, there's not a lot of really good options. So that's why it's really important that young farmers and beginning farmers think about retirement savings because you can have a huge impact on your later life if you start early with retirement. So today we're just going to talk about how our retirement system has evolved and how we've gotten to the, where we are now with our retirement system in the United States. And then we're going to look at some basic retirement benchmarks. So, and once we look at the benchmarks, we'll talk about how to get started saving for retirement and some common pitfalls that farmers face. So to start off with, the retirement, our modern idea of retirement in the United States, it really didn't exist before the 1900s. So back then, farm families tended to be very large. They tended to stay in one place, and having a lot of children was kind of your old age insurance. So there's going to be somebody there to help take care of you if, you couldn't work. But things would really start to change in the early 1900s. So advances in healthcare and medicine meant the average life expectancy started to increase. So before the 1900s, the average life expectancy was below 50 years of age. And then by 1930, it was 60 years of age. And also during this time, you had a lot of people moving to the cities to work in factories. So these companies started offering pension plans. And so a pension plan is just a basic retirement plan that once you've worked for that company a certain number of years, they're going to pay you a guaranteed amount per month in retirement. And so this was a really attractive to a lot of workers. So a lot of workers start to move to cities to work in factories. Now, everything changes, though, in the 1930s with the Great Depression. And this is when Roosevelt and Congress, they basically create a government pension program, Social Security. And so Social Security, based on how much you've contributed in Social Security taxes over the years, you're going to get a set amount per month in retirement. And so one thing to note, though, about Social Security is that it was never meant to be a person's sole source of income in retirement. It was always meant to be kind of a minimum safety net. And another thing to think, too, is that farmers were excluded from Social Security when it was first created. So it wasn't until the 1950s that farmers were allowed to participate in Social Security. So you still see a lot of farmers or a lot of farm children leaving farms, and then a lot of farmers getting off-farm jobs just to get retirement benefits. So in the 1950s and 60s, this is really the golden era of pension plans. And so at one time, I think half of the American workforce had a pension plan of some sort. But things would really begin to change after 1978 because Congress passed the Revenue Act of 1978. And when they did that, they unintentionally created a tax loophole in Section 401k. And so it would take several years, but companies would begin to realize that they could offer 401k plans instead of pension plans. And the difference between a 401k and a pension plan is that, like I said, the pension plan guarantees you a set amount per month once you've worked a certain number of years with that company. So the company is on the hook for that guarantee. A 401k, they're just guaranteeing you an upfront contribution. So one good way to think about it, a pension plan is more like a reward for working 30 years with a company, whereas a 401k is more like an incentive to work with a company. And it's, in a lot of ways, it's a better deal for companies because they don't have to be on the hook for that guarantee once you retire. So eventually we'll start to see pension plans, they're going to go by the wayside, and 401ks are going to become the primary retirement account in the United States. And that's really where we are today with our modern retirement system. So it's evolved from kind of this three-legged stool concept where Social Security would pay for about a third of a person's retirement, pensions would pay for a third of a person's retirement, and then another third would be your personal savings. And so now the modern retirement system has changed to where it's really rare to see a pension plan anymore unless you're a government employee of some sort. And Social Security, we still have Social Security, but there's some uncertainty about it. And probably in the future, the benefits are going to be reduced. And so that leaves us with 401ks. And this isn't to say 401ks are bad. It's just that they're different. And so 401ks, a good way to think of them is more like a personal savings account, because although they are giving you a match up front, it really shifts the responsibility of retirement more towards the individual or the person or the employee. And so that's kind of how our retirement system works now, just to give you a better context. So now we're going to try to look at some retirement benchmarks. And these are just kind of your standard industry benchmarks, what the financial services industry kind of says that you should be. So how much should you save for retirement? Well, it depends. It depends on how long you live. And none of us really know how long we're going to live, probably, but most of us probably have a good idea based off our family history and genetics, how long we could live. So you want to plan for, how long you could live based off of your family history. And then you want to think about another thing it depends on is what you invest in. So if you invest in more conservative investments, you may not have as big a retirement account in the end. So you may have to save more money up front. You want to think about other sources of income. So if you do plan to farm in retirement, you can still get some income coming from the farm. And then you want to think about your lifestyle in retirement. If you're somebody who wants to travel a lot, go see the world, you're probably going to need to save more than somebody who just wants to stay at home and enjoy being at home. And so this is kind of the industry benchmarks for how much you should save for retirement. And this is based off of a 30-year retirement. So if you retire at 67, this should get you to age 97 without running out of money. And so your ultimate goal is you want to have 10 times your annual salary saved in some type of retirement account. So 401k, IRA, you want to have 10 times that amount saved in a retirement account by the time you retire. And if you look at the benchmarks by age, so by 30, you want to have at least your annual salary saved in some type of retirement account. By age 35, you want 2 times. By 40, 3 times. You'll see a twofold increase between 45 and 50, and that's where you start seeing some compound interest kick in. So another way to think about this too is by your monthly income. So this chart again is based off of 30-year lifespan and retirement. So from 67 to 97. So it is pretty conservative. But let's say you're going to get the average Social Security payment in retirement. So you're going to get about $1,500 per month. That's about the average Social Security payment. What do you need to make up your income, or 70 to 90% of your income per month in retirement? So if let's say you need $3,000 per month. So if you're getting $1,500 here from Social Security, what do you need to get from your retirement account per month? So you'll need to get about $1,400. So to get $1,400 a month, you're going to need a little over $400,000 saved in a 401k or a retirement account of some sort. Let's see. So when should you start saving for retirement? So as early as possible, but it depends on some other factors too. So it depends on if you have emergency savings. So ideally you would have 3 to 6 months of emergency savings. So something in a savings account that if something really bad happens, that you can get to that money fast and use it, that's not tied up in investments. So if you've got that emergency savings build up, and then if you have high interest debt, you want to go ahead and pay that off first. So if you have like lots of credit card debt, you want to try to pay that off before you start putting a lot of money towards retirement. But this graph right here is really the heart of why it's so important to start saving as soon as you possibly can, because it really says a lot. So this is two different people. So you got Emily is the blue line and Dave is the red line. And they're both saving $200 per month for retirement, and they're earning 6% interest. So they're doing the same thing and earning the same rate, but one started 10 years earlier. So Emily is going to be contributing to her retirement account for 40 years, and Dave is going to be contributing to 30 years. So she's only contributing 10 years more than Dave is, but she's going to have over double the amount in retirement that Dave is going to have. And the reason this is happening is because of compound interest. So if you're earning on average 6 to 7% on your investments, your money's going to double around every 10 years. And so Emily is actually getting another doubling cycle. So she's getting another doubling cycle compared to Dave. And because she's already got a big nest egg built up, when that money doubles, it has a huge impact on her savings. So this is really why it's so important for young farmers to start early saving, because you don't want to get to age 65 and outlive your retirement, going forward. So how do you get started saving? So if you work off farm, if you have an off farm job and you're lucky enough to have a 401k, you want to be sure that you're contributing at least enough to meet the match on the 401k. And remember, it's at least enough. So a lot of companies used to offer like 7 or 8% match on 401ks. That's becoming more uncommon these days. It's more common to see a 4 or 5% match. And you definitely want to put in enough to get the 4 or 5% match, but you may need to contribute even more, because a lot of the financial advisors say that you should put 10 to 15% of your individual income towards retirement. So if your company is only matching 4% and you're only doing enough to meet that 4% match, that means you're only getting 8%. So just be aware of that. If you don't have an off-farm job, let's say you're a full-time farmer and you don't have a 401k, what can you do to start saving for retirement? Well, you can open up an individual retirement account or IRA, and they're really easy to open up. You can go to your bank and physically go in the bank and ask somebody to help you open up one. or a lot of banks, you can do it online now. So you can just go online and open up an IRA. And there's two different types of IRAs. There's your traditional IRA and then your Roth IRA. And if you're a young person, like in your 20s and 30s, you probably want to look into the Roth IRA because you're putting after-tax money in there. So that means you've already paid the taxes on it. And the good thing is that once you put that money in there, it grows tax-free and you withdraw it with no taxes in retirement. So in the long run, you're going to save a lot of money going with a Roth IRA if you're in your 20s and 30s, probably. One thing to know about both the traditional IRA and a Roth IRA is that they do have contribution limits. So both of them have $6,000 limits on them. So you can't put more than $6,000 into them in a year. So if you feel like, let's say your farm is, really booming, you've had a good year and you could contribute more to your IRA. Another thing you could look into is called a SEP, Simplified Employee Pension Plan, but it has a much higher contribution limit. The thing to think about a SEP though is if you have employees on your farm, you have to contribute retirement to your employees too. So you can set it up for just yourself if it's just you on the farm. But if you do have other employees, you have to save for all your employees on the farm. So just keep that in mind too. But it is a good way if you do have employees on your farm and you want to help them with their retirement. It's a good account that you could look into. Now, once you have your IRA set up or your individual retirement account, just because you put money into it doesn't mean it's invested. So if you just stick money into your IRA and don't invest it into anything, it's just going to be like putting money into a savings account. So once you open up your IRA, you have to invest it in something. And there's different ways to do that. You can have a self-directed IRA. So that's one where you're basically picking and choosing the stocks yourself. So if there's a certain stock you like, you can buy 10 shares of it yourself and you can do the trading yourself. Another thing that you could use as a robo-advisor. Basically, they have preset funds and you say if you want to be conservative, aggressive, moderately conservative in your investing, and it does the investing based off of what you input to it. Or you can get a person to manage your investments, like a financial advisor of some sort. To do a financial advisor, you're probably going to have a certain amount of assets already built up. So you may have to have $20,000 or $30,000 already built up to get a person to manage it for you. And just be aware too that there's going to be fees involved. So probably the one with the least amount of fees is going to be the self-directed one. And then you'll have some fees with a robo-advisor or more fees with a person managing it. Now, if all this seems really confusing and you don't really think you want to do it on your own, it probably would be good to meet with a financial professional of some sort. And there's like over 200,000 financial advisors in the United States. And they all have like different certifications and things after their name. So it can be really confusing to figure out which ones actually mean something and which ones are more like just marketing. But there's two in particular that I want to point out. And the first one is accredited financial counselor. If they're an accredited financial counselor, they're going to be really good at helping you like with budgeting, getting you off to a good financial start, a good financial foundation. They can help you with figuring out which debts you need to pay off first, help you with savings and, just getting you off to a good start. So this might be good for somebody in their 20s. And then a certified financial planner. So they're going to take a holistic look at your finances and help you come up with a financial plan. They'll look at things like retirement, saving for your children's college. They can even do like estate planning help and help you with investing. a lot of certified financial planners, it may be hard to find one to work with you when you're just starting out if you don't have a lot of assets built up already. Sometimes you'll see that they have a required minimum assets under management, but some actually specialize in working with young professionals. So you just have to, search around. But if you go to letsmakeaplan.org, you can find certified financial planners in your area. If you go to this website, you can find accredited financial counselors. And the two good things about these certifications is that they're required to have a fiduciary a standard. So they have to work in your best interest. And so a lot of other financial advisors, you would think they would have to work in your best interest, but a lot of them don't have to do that. They just have to meet what they call a suitability standard. So they just have to recommend something that suits your interest, but it's not in your best interest. So if they make a big commission off of something, it might not be in your best interest, but it suits your standards. But with the certified financial planner and accredited financial counselor, they have to make recommendations that are in your best interest. So the final thing that I want to talk about is just some common pitfalls that farmers face in retirement. And these are things that we see a pretty good bit. So a common pitfall number one is the end of the year and I made a profit. So I'm going to buy a new tractor to avoid income taxes. And I feel like this mentality is very common in the farming world. So they don't want to pay more taxes than they have to. So they're going to go out and buy something to reduce their profit for the year. So that's a good strategy to reduce your income taxes, but it also reduces your Social Security benefits. So to earn 4 Social Security credits for the year, you have to show at least $6,000 profit on your Schedule F. And you also need to be filing a Schedule SE, the self-employment tax. So this is just to get you the bare minimum for the year is the $6,000. So if you do that one time where you buy something to reduce your taxes, it's probably not going to hurt your Social Security that much because they average it over 35 years of earnings. But if you do it year after year after year, it could have a big hit on your Social Security benefits. So just be aware of that. Also, if you want to check your Social Security credits and see what you're projected to get when you retire, you can go to Social Security's website, which is ssa.gov. And you have to make an account there and they have to verify your identity. I think they have to send you something in the mail and it takes a couple of weeks to, do the whole process of verifying your identity. But once you do that, you can check your Social Security statements and see what your projected income will be in retirement based off of what age you retire or are planning to retire. So that's the common pitfall number one. This one is very common in farming world. I'm going to farm till the day I die. So I've heard this so many times over the years that farmers have no plan to retire because they think they're just going to keep going and going. And for one thing, that if they have that mentality, they're probably not going to save very much. But the other thing too is that this is really the best case scenario. So the Department of Health and Human Services has found that if you're over 60 years of age, there's a 70% chance that you're going to need long-term care at some point. So I think a lot of, younger people, myself included, I always used to think that if you were going to need long-term care, that Medicare would help pay for it. But that's not the way it works. Medicare doesn't pay for long-term care. So long-term care isn't necessarily medical care. It's more like assistance doing like daily activities like preparing meals, bathing, putting clothes on, those types of things. And so Medicare doesn't pay for that. And so this can be really expensive, and it can eat into retirement savings very quickly. So in the United States, the average cost per month, so this is per month cost for assisted living private bedroom, is about $4,000 per month. And for nursing home, it's over $7,000 per month. And so that can eat into retirement savings very quickly. And unfortunately, if you exhaust all your retirement savings, then you'll have to go on Medicaid, and Medicaid will help you pay for any type of long-term care you need while you're alive. But once you pass away, they'll put a lien on the property, and they'll force the sale of the farm during the probate process. And so it's a big risk for farmers if they don't have enough saved for retirement because of long-term care cost. Another common pitfall too is just we see farmers who are really good at saving but not investing. And so there's actually been some research done that shows that farmers are actually better at saving than other groups of people. So that is good, but just because you're saving, it doesn't mean that you're investing. So one thing to note is that most savings accounts don't keep up with inflation. And so I think we all know, this year in particular, how inflation can affect things, and it reduces your purchasing power. So in 1990, you could buy $43 worth of stuff. Well, in 2022, that same amount of stuff would cost you $100. So that shows you how inflation reduces your purchasing power. So if you are saving, be sure that you're investing it in something that can at least keep up with inflation. And then the final pitfall I want to talk about is just the dual household pitfall. And this seems kind of counterintuitive, but research has shown that dual income households usually undersave for retirement compared to single income households. And you would think it'd kind of be the other way around, but we see this in farming a lot too, where a spouse will have health issues, maybe go on long-term care and passes away. And then that exhausts the retirement savings and leaves the other spouse with very little to live off of. And so again, they're in that bind where the farm is basically the biggest asset. And so those are kind of the common pitfalls that we see. And, the point of this webinar is just to get you thinking about retirement. So hopefully, if you're farming, you won't have to experience those pitfalls too. And so I know this was, kind of a short presentation, but here's some resources on retirement that you can use. There's lots of different retirement calculators out there, but a really good one is that Nerd Wallet. So it's really easy to use. You just put in what you think your age of retirement is going to be, how much you've already got saved up, and it'll kind of tell you how much you need to start saving per month. Another thing, if you live in North Carolina, you have access to the Morningstar Investment Research Center through NC Live. NC Live is basically a collaboration of the libraries in North Carolina. They offer different databases that you can use for free. And the Morningstar Investment Research Center, if you get really interested in investing, this is a great tool because they have all different types of information on different stocks, and it's just, you could spend a lot of time on there. If you're going to college, probably your college library, you can get access to it too. I know NC State's library, you can access it through NC State as well. I don't know how many of you know about edX, but it's a collaboration of colleges in the United States, and they actually offer courses on different subjects. I mean, just a wide variety of subjects, but you can, I guess, kind of like audit the courses for free. And so you just go to edX and you would type in personal finance, and there's several different courses on personal finance that you could view through edX. And then another good tool for savings are these new budgeting apps. I know a lot of people used to still may do paper budgets, or they might do the envelope system where you put a certain amount of cash in an envelope for the month. But these new budgeting apps, one neat thing about them is you can connect them to your retirement accounts and your bank accounts. So you can see at any given time kind of where you stand. And two pretty good ones, I think, are Mint and the Nerd Wallet app. And then just our final resource I want to talk about is just our FarmLink website. We do have some different succession planning resources on there, so you can take a look at those. And if you're a beginning farmer, we can try to help connect you with help you with land access as well. We also have some other events coming up. I know Hannah's on here. She's going to be doing a incubator roundtable discussion, incubator farm roundtable discussion in January. So just be on the lookout for that. So that's basically all I have. If you've got any questions, you can put them in the chat and we can talk about them and see if I can answer them.